Welcome back to the Spill Session, where we speak the unspoken, name the pain, and walk the path toward healing together. Today we're going to break down what narcissism really is. We are speaking of the behavioral truth, because understanding narcissism is key to understanding the abuse behind it. Let's get into it.
Narcissism exists on a spectrum. On the healthy end, we all need a bit of self love, like confidence, boundaries, ambition. We all have a little narcissist in us. But these traits are the normal ones. When narcissism becomes extreme, especially in narcissistic personality disorder or NPD, which is rarely diagnosed by the way, it turns toxic. It becomes a pattern of behavior rooted in a lack of empathy, an excessive need for admiration, a fragile sense of self worth, and a deep fear of vulnerability or rejection. Most narcissists hide that vulnerability behind a mask of charm, confidence, or being superior.
I think this plays on an empath. Empaths are often, it's not just empaths, but empaths are often victims of narcissistic abuse, kind of because they're an empath. I feel bad for them for needing these things and having this diminished self-worth and vulnerability. Like I feel those things too, and I feel for them. They just, their behavior becomes toxic to mask those things, and I just feel bad for them.
I agree with you. I think empaths in general come across narcissists. Generally, in relationships, I think if you look at any type, toxic or not, usually you meet someone that's your not necessarily polar opposite, but opposite in some ways, and you find some middle ground or similarities that you can where you can mesh well together. And I think for me at least, I always had a tendency of finding solutions and wanting to fix things. So in my younger days, I always used to say or feel attracted to the bad boy types because I always felt the need to fix what was broken or make it better. And, going back to that in episode 3, I mentioned this that fairy tale mentality of, oh, I can always make someone better, or I could always share my goodness, and they'll fall madly in love with me, and we'll live happily ever after. And I look back at it now and I kind of giggle a little bit because I was so naive. And this isn't me self-deprecating or anything like that. It's just me self-reflecting and understanding that there's a lot more to it than that. But that's what an empath does with a narcissist. We feel like our goodness will shine a light for them and they will change their ways because maybe just sharing this light will help, but all a narcissist does is dim your light.
Yeah, I don't know if you looked at it this way too, but the way that I've looked at it is I feel when we're feeling unworthy, getting being or even unlovable, feeling unworthy and unlovable, being loved by someone or needed by someone or worthy of someone, no matter who they are, you're not realizing that they're narcissists. But when you feel that returned love, it makes you feel, well, if I can be loved by this person or wanted by this person or worthy of this person, they're really smart. They have good qualities too. They're charming. If I can have this returned to me, it's fulfilling in that sense too. And as an empath, like I can fix them, almost transactional. Like you're looking for a transaction with them.
Yeah, it's like a feeding cycle in a
Mhm.
sense, reciprocal.
You're kind of getting what you need.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about, we haven't talked about supply yet, have we? We've kind of
Mhm.
briefly touched upon it,
Mhm.
but narcissists seek supply from people, right? They get fed off control in their mind. And as empaths, we get fed off of the ability to
Gi-
potentially make someone good or
Give
help
someone,
them.
yeah, give someone what they need.
Yeah, and so it's a feeding frenzy of sorts. It's a very toxic feeding frenzy. And ultimately, this isn't to say there's something wrong with that, but I'm sure you're here listening to this and thinking, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. And I've been there, I still go there sometimes where I I feel like I need to be fixed. But ultimately, we've been given and conditioned what we have. And we just have to work with and find ways to improve ourselves, not necessarily for partner or even our kids, but for ourselves, because through our best selves, we will be what others need. And at the end of the day, if we have self worth and self love, we will be what those other individuals want or what they need and even what we need, right? Like sometimes I wonder if I even know what I need. Like I always wonder what's the best thing for me. Life is just about figuring ourselves out, showing ourselves care. And going back to the societal and gender roles and all of those expectations, as women, at least for me, I was always conditioned to put myself last, especially as a wife and a mom. I didn't matter at that point. And so I've been doing self work. I have had to realize that boundary setting is okay, even with children. My own mom always put herself last, and that was the example I got and the expectation that she still has for me. And although she's not overt about it anymore, and it's probably because I set boundaries with her too, it's still her expectation. Sadly, when you have these expectations and you go into a relationship with a narcissist, the narcissist will tell you that they don't have this expectation because that's what my ex-husband used to tell me. You don't need to do all this laundry. You don't need to do all this cleaning. You don't need to do all these dishes. You don't need to. You don't need to. Yet when I didn't do it,
Didn't get
you're
done.
it didn't get done and I was lazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They didn't take over.
Nope.
Still my situation. You think these things need to be done. It's all in your head. They don't need to be done. And I'm like, but they do need to be done for hygiene purposes and lots of other
Yep.
reasons, mental clarity, mental health, for you, for your kids. But, bathrooms don't need to be cleaned, the floors don't need to be mopped, the laundry doesn't need to be done. Really? It doesn't? What planet are we living on?
Who's gonna do it?
Right. If I don't do it, he's not going to do it because it doesn't need to be done. Well, that's not actually the case, though. But yeah,
No,
and then they gaslight you, and
I never said that.
I do things. My favorite is oh, yeah, you're right. I don't do anything at all. And then comes the sarcasm. I do nothing.
Yeah. Or I never said that.
Yeah, or I never said that.
Yeah. I never said that to you. I never made you feel bad. It's all in your
Hmm.
head.
Yeah. Let's walk through the most common traits and behaviors of narcissists. Grandiosity. Often they exaggerate their achievements or importance. They want to be seen as superior, even if they haven't earned it.
For narcissists like the ones in our lives, I think this wasn't a big one outside of control. Being with a covert narcissist, in my case, where everything looked perfect on the surface, outside of him having public temper tantrums, he didn't necessarily exaggerate much of anything.
I think right now, I don't want to speak out of line for you, but I think
Yeah,
right now, it's like Father of the Year, putting on a show, all the best presents, all the best vacations, all the best times together, when beyond the pictures that they have to
yeah,
put out there to make themselves seem so big and important, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
right, right.
The cursing, the temper tantrums,
Yelling.
and then it's smile for the photo.
Yeah. In my case, it was like dealing with a toddler sometimes. I don't know if anyone or if you, Katie, has seen this viral video this week of a woman that just threw herself on the floor in the airport because she didn't get what she wanted. That's literally what it was like with my ex-husband. He would just yell like a toddler. And when I was brought out of character,
We were crazy. We're crazy.
well, I would do the same things
Reactive.
and be reactive. Or there were times where he wouldn't have the tantrum and I would, because it was like a mirror kind of. I touched upon that before, where you just kind of mirror each other or start complimenting each other, and it's just so toxic. But in terms of grandiosity, yes, exaggerating the truth, basically.
Yeah, and my with mine, the grandiosity is about work. Like I get a lot of,
Mm,
I'm the best one at work. I'm the best employee and they love the work that I do and everything. I'm like he's the star employee of the year and I'm like, why can't you do any of that at home? Why can't you be like that at home on top of stuff and helpful and put yourself out there and overextend yourself the way I overextend myself? I don't know, you don't motivate me. That's my favorite. Lack of empathy. This is key. Narcissists struggle to feel or care about how their actions affect others. They might dismiss your feelings or ignore your pain altogether. And that I find too, that's when they really stonewall you. You can go to them in tears. They can just
yep.
stonewall you and why are you crying? Or you're too sensitive.
Yes.
There's just so many examples of the lack of empathy, even to a straightforward point. When I first met my narcissist, one of the first things he said to me, I was crying, trying to cry on his shoulder, look for support, love, extra hugs. My dad had just passed away. I was 24 years old. I didn't know how to handle it. And I just opened up to him and I was crying and he just got stone cold. And I don't know. I don't know what to do for you. I don't know how to help you. I never lost my dad. I don't know how you feel. Okay, but could you hug me? Could you hold me? Could you be there for me? There was just zero empathy at all.
It was like speaking to a shell. So my father did not pass away when I met my ex-husband. However, it was only a few years after. And every time my dad's death anniversary happened, I felt extremely sad and I felt like I relived the moment where my dad passed. And it was just a very cold time. My dad died in fall and so that's when, the leaves start. I was in New York at the time. The leaves start falling from the trees. It was just symbolic to me and I just correlated that time with death and loss and abandonment and all of these other feelings. And he could never understand how I felt and why I felt that way. And his response would be such and such years, so however many years it was, it's been 2 years, it's been 3 years, it's been 4, like every year it would be the same thing, and there was never any empathy towards it. And I understand that if you've never lost a parent, it's hard to understand the emotions behind it, but as a human being and as my boyfriend at the time, just asking for some comfort, like
Hmm.
just show me that you care.
Yeah.
So I relate to that.
There's literally no empathy when you're begging them for help around the house, even though it shouldn't be considered help. It should be considered, well, this is your house and these are your kids too. You should be doing the work too. Should not even be help, but you're begging for it. There's no empathy. You can go to them in tears and they just stand there stone cold. They just don't feel anything. There's no empathy. Well, you do it to yourself.
Or for me, it used to be, well, you enjoy doing this stuff. And honestly, yes, I took to enjoying cleaning because it was an escape for me. It was something that kept me occupied because if as an anxious person, if I didn't keep my mind or my body occupied, I'd just be thinking about the fucking shit he would do to me
Hmm.
emotionally, like the hurt I would feel. And so cleaning would at least give me some form of clarity. Like I feel good cleaning. It became my firefighter mentality. I was putting out the constant fire I was under.
Um, Entitlement. They believe they deserve special treatment and get angry or resentful when they don't receive it.
We were just kind of talking about this where we don't have to do all this cleaning, but if you
It's
don't do it, you're
expected.
lazy.
Yeah, it's expected.
Or the motivation.
Yeah, you're supposed to motivate them. They're entitled to you motivating them. They're entitled to a lot of other things too that are, like I think they feel entitled to sex. I'm your spouse. This is what you are supposed to do for me.
Yeah.
I haven't been told that directly, but that's what he says motivated him.
So I would be told that directly. I would be told, "You're my wife. You're supposed to do this." And through therapy, I later learned that that was coercion. And that is a form of abuse. Not necessarily emotionally. It might be emotional abuse, but sexual abuse. And my whole marriage, I didn't realize that. So he always felt entitled to my body. When I was pretty much mentally checked out and emotionally checked out of the marriage, I started setting boundaries. The abuse in terms of emotional got worse for me because he started having temper tantrums due to his entitlement of my body, and I just would reject and say, "No, you're not getting this." Outside of that, it was entitlement to finances, entitlement to anything I had. When we were dating, my car, I was willing to give it to him. I would offer him help when he didn't have a car, for example. But it just always felt like he wanted more and more and more. And because I was always willing to give, I didn't understand that it wasn't me just giving it. It was just, well, we're together, so give me more. And he wouldn't say it in those words, but just he would just ask for things or he would just expect things and then later on tell me, "I don't need that from you," or "I
Mm.
don't expect that from you," or "I didn't say that."
Gaslighting. It
Yes.
reminds me of the quote, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine.
Yeah. Yeah. To a T.
Mm. Manipulation. Narcissists often twist situations, rewrite history, or use people to serve their own needs. If you call them out, they deflect or lash out.
Twisting situations is one I relate to personally. So it kind of goes to the gaslighting too. And this is this is a trigger for me in general with people overall, and it's something I am presently working on. My trauma responses have a lot to do with certain words I hear or certain ways people work, like say things to me or verbalize things to me. And when people either don't communicate well with me, and this is general in all relationships, or don't speak to me clearly, and we're talking about emotions or how things, well, emotions, how things make me feel. And I'm like, "I feel sad that you're saying this to me." And the other person goes, "Well, you made me do this." So, in other words, I'm reacting this way because you, meaning me in this case, I made them feel that way too. It makes me feel like I can't express myself without something being twisted around. And even though that may not be the other person's intent, whether it be a friend or, a partner or whatever, I think the key here is understanding that twisting words around can not only be a trigger for someone that's surviving in a narcissistic abusive relationship, but also going back into the narcissistic relationship. When your words are twisted around, it leads towards the gaslighting. "I never said that. I'm just being this way because you told me to." And Katie, this kind of goes to what you've talked about repeatedly, which is, how do you know you're in a narcissistic relationship, whether it's, romantic, friendship, parents, there's always, and like I'm saying, I struggle with this where people twist situations around. I think the key in understanding how it happens with a narcissist is what else goes along with
Mm.
those twisted situations
Yeah.
or those
Okay.
twisted words. So for me, I think in my self reflection, I've realized that when the situation was twisted, it would go along with gaslighting. At least in my perspective and in my situation overall with my ex-husband, it always went towards, I didn't say that. You're making that up.
Yeah, I feel like for me it's the same thing. It manipulation always came as gaslighting, it came as breadcrumbing, it came as stonewalling, it came as all those things. Love bombing, they're all kinds of manipulation to gain control. And there's so many different ways that we can be manipulated between the twisting of words or situations or that didn't happen in the gaslighting. But yeah, for me, there's a lot of dangling carrots, and
Mm,
he does it to the kids too.
yeah.
He'll throw something out and say, "You can have this. We're going to do this. It's going to be a great thing. We're going to take a train ride, or we're going to go see the trains, or we're going to go get a car, or whatever the exciting thing is." And then the second they're unhappy with the way that you're behaving, things that you're saying, if something comes up and you express yourself, oh, we're not doing that. We're not going to do it anymore. And then they take it away. And but then they give it to you anyway. So it's like it's a form of manipulation, gaslighting, breadcrumbing. They're dangling a carrot, and it's all to manipulate and control. And that's something that I was never really able to see was kind of so covert.
Yeah. When you're in it, it's hard to see that cycle repeat itself. It's hard to see that it's technically abusive because hearing you speak about this, when you're a child, if we want to take it back a step further, and you are brought up on a reward system of some kind, get good grades and you'll be given this. It almost sounds like he might, and narcissists are affected by their childhoods too. It almost sounds like maybe he might take whatever, and this is me not knowing exactly how he was raised, but you behave well, whatever well is to his standards, and you'll get this. Don't behave well, you're insulting me or criticizing me. You know what? You're not going to get this. And then he'll get over his little tantrum and then say, you know what? I really do want to give this to you and I love you. So here you go. And to the victim, that is confusing as fuck
Mhm.
because you're here telling me you're going to give it to me. And I'm here not thinking it's a reward. I'm thinking you want to give this to me because you want to do something special for me. And now you want to take it away because it's all of a sudden a reward. Now I'm upset because you made me feel like shit. And now you're telling me that I'm not going to get this reward or gift or whatever it is. I don't even know what it is at this point. And then you come back 5 seconds later. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but even my daughter tells me with my ex-husband that he'll come back 5 minutes later and be nice to her in some of the things he does. But 5 seconds later, he'll come back and say, "You know what? I actually do want to give this to you. So what color do you want?"
Yeah.
In the sense of a car, or okay, we're gonna go get ice cream. What flavor do you want?
Yeah.
If it's the kids. So it's such a
It's a mind fuck.
it's a huge mind fuck, and it makes you feeling it leaves you feeling like you're the problem.
Yeah.
Like, what did you do to
Hmm.
get this treatment?
Yeah.
What can you do better to make them not be this way with you?
Right. And now pointing all of that out too, twisting it just a little bit or adding to this, then there are the times where he'll use something so grand and amazing that you really, really want to control and manipulate your behavior. So he will tell the kids, we're going to go to the movies today. And the kids will get so excited, so excited. And then all of a sudden they're fighting with each other. Something happens, they start fighting. That's it. We're not going to the movies because you're fighting now. He uses it to control their behavior. And this is the next point is the need for control. They want to dominate the dynamic, whether in friendships, families, or romantic relationships. And they'll do it through tactics like guilt, fear, flattery, shame, or even manipulation. And in this situation with my kids, for example, is telling them they'll go to the movies, but then taking it away the second something steps out of line. So he uses it to try to control their behavior. get them to behave the way he wants them to behave by dangling a carrot. And it is so fucked up because then they feel like they're these bad children. And then they feel disappointed because now we can't go. And I didn't realize that was a rule. So it's constantly changing the rules.
It's very confusing as children. In my case, you have to wonder, you meaning me, I had to wonder bribes. It's kind of the same thing. So my ex-husband, to this day, or even after the divorce, started using gifts as a way to get the kids to spend time with them. And it works. So whenever they're on my time, the only way they look forward, particularly my son, is if there is something waiting for him, my ex-husband's house. Other than that, he doesn't like going. And when my daughter was younger, it was the same thing. There was one Christmas that it was our first Christmas after the split. The kids were on my time. He called them to wish them a happy Christmas or a Merry Christmas. He was like, "Hey, I got some gifts for you." And they got all excited. In my mind, he did that to spite me because all the kids wanted to do was leave at that point, even though they were supposed to spend the holiday with me. That was the first Christmas they were spending with me alone. Since then, or that's my first recollection of him bribing, he has done that every single time. But now the kids are a bit bigger, and I think they're used to and understand the dynamics of split time between us. But it goes back to, in your case, it's used as a reward or like a carrot, as you say. In my case, it's a bribe, and it's to keep
Mm.
control of the situation we're in and the dynamics we're in right now, where I want them to still come over here. So to get them to still come over here, I need to give them something materialistic, because in terms of being nurturing, having conversations, being a present parent, that is something that he never was while we were married. And to my knowledge, at least from my perspective and what my children tell me, he's not that present. Still, in this parallel parenting situation, there is a sense of control that he tries to maintain.
Yeah. And they can do it through other tactics too. Guilt, fear, flattery, and shame. Like I mentioned before, it's just so many different ways that they can gain control. And sometimes you don't even realize it. I recently found out about situation with my finances. I really want to get my finances in order, so I'm trying to gain access to all the accounts, which he's the one that has all the access to. Where can I cut on electricity use or water use, or where can we make cuts? And I've asked for access and had no idea that this is why I didn't have access in the first place, but he turned around and told me, "You just want to control everything. You want to control me." No. So that's projecting.
Yeah,
And
it's financial abuse too.
and he is trying to be the one to control all of it, which doesn't even make sense. Like I'm trying to make our situation better, his situation better, and find where we can make cuts, save some money, and we can both get out of this alive. But he has to control everything. Hypersensitivity to criticism. Even gentle feedback can trigger rage or deep insecurity. They may retaliate with silent treatment, blame shifting, or smear campaigns. Oh, yeah, they do not like criticism.
No.
And nobody likes criticism, but when you can't be held accountable for anything,
I feel like it's not necessarily critical to tell someone or express a feeling about what bothers you, but they take it as a criticism. So they become hypersensitive to anything that may be perceived as wrong, because all they do is perceive themselves, well, no, they do perceive themselves as inadequate internally, right? But they, on the outside, want to feel like they're grandiose, like they're something special, like they're, hot shit or whatever. Like they just want to be the best of the best or be perceived that way and be adored. So when you bring something up that bothers you or you want to work on together, it's like the end of the world for them. Whether that's, romantically or like you've mentioned that sometimes the kids try to express their feelings towards something he did, and so he takes away trip to the movies
Hmm.
or
Oh
going to
yeah.
the trains or
Yeah. Or you reacted to me when I said something to you that you felt was not appropriate for the situation, and then you reacted to me, so we're not going.
or it's your mom's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing this because your mom's in a bad mood now. Have you
Yeah.
experienced that?
Oh yeah. Yep. Or your mom doesn't want to. I can tell. But if I say something like, "Oh, you didn't do the dishes last night." Oh, that's it. Your mom's in a bad mood, so we're not going. Yeah, you can't point out anything that's wrong with them because they really need to, not only do they have to put on this show that they are grandiose and perfect and important, but they also have to convince themselves of that. And if you point something out to them that could possibly be something they need to improve, they're just going to immediately take that as a trigger, a criticism, and they're going to be way hypersensitive about it. I'm trying to think of an example, but it happens so much
It
on
does.
so many different scales.
Yeah.
Shallow or conditional relationships. Connections are transactional. They keep people close as long as those people serve a purpose. Admiration, status, control. Once that purpose fades, so do they. When you're no
Supply.
longer their supply. Yep.
Yeah. So narcissists have a hard time being alone. What I mean by that is romantically, in a family, friendships, they need people around. My narcissist always had to be around friends when we were dating. If he wasn't getting supply from me, he needed supply elsewhere. But I was the biggest supply, so he would, in a sense, give me enough attention to keep me hanging on while then going to do whatever it is he wanted to do without me. And so it was always a breadcrumb dynamic, I guess you can say. Even in our marriage, that's what it was. Whenever I would get close to pulling away in terms of leaving or in terms of saying, that's it, I've had enough, it would be like, no, I'll change. I would never get an apology, but it would be like, no, we can fix this. I'll change. I'll do better. He would improve for maybe a couple weeks to a month, and then the cycle would repeat itself. So it was never consistent. And I think that's why now I harp on consistency in relationships, because I went through so much inconsistency in my relationship and my marriage with him, that in order to feel good about a romantic partner, I need to see a form of consistency. And to be frank, it's never going to be 100%, which is why I try to follow this 80/20 rule. But if it's 80% consistent, I think that's good enough, or whatever that is for you. Just note that it's never going to be 100%. Do you feel your situation is transactional?
Yeah, I do. I feel like supply. I feel he needs to control me. He needs to be in control. There can't be a power play. I mean, honestly, I've always felt in our relationship that he's needed to control every situation, every decision, and they've all led us to these dark paths where I would end up cleaning up his mess. And it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. So let me make the decisions. No, let's make the decisions together. No, like, or your decision is stupid, or it doesn't make sense, or that's not how you're supposed to do things. It was always about control. And I do feel like supply. And I do feel like until he finds another supply, he's going to continuously try to breadcrumb me and gaslight and all these things. I'm gonna just still be until he finds a new supply. It's like, it's so sad to think of it that way, and I have to laugh about it because it's so ridiculous. It seems so ridiculous, but yeah, definitely he needs me so he has someone to control. And if it's not me, he needs to control his kids. So yes. And I also am recently learning that the reason a lot of narcissists want kids is because it is a permanent supply.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's very hard for people to detach from parents even as adults. And because, he's the narcissist and you're the empath. I think from the empath they derive that they need closeness to both parents. And as young children, you want both parents around. So it's just a very shitty and difficult situation to be in even as a kid, but all we can do as their mothers is try to be supportive and help them understand that they're not the issue because they will think that too.
Mhm. Yeah, it definitely is a self-esteem destroyer for kids. I'm noticing that in my own kids.
So not all narcissists are loud, arrogant, or obvious. Some are vulnerable and they appear shy, victimized, or anxious. This is where the smear campaigns come in when you leave them. Their core behaviors are the same though. They manipulate, they lack empathy, they emotionally control, and because they seem introverted, so these covert narcissists we're talking about, or play on others' heartstrings, they tend to be believed, and the real victim becomes the villain in the story. When you understand these traits, you stop blaming yourself. So, for those of you that may still be in relationships like this or are still healing from relationships like this, you can stop blaming yourself. You can start realizing that you weren't being too emotional. It wasn't you being too needy. It was emotional abuse and control dressed up as love, friendship, and care. Knowledge is power. And when you recognize narcissism for what it is, you take the first step towards protecting your peace, setting boundaries, and rebuilding your sense of self.
If this resonated with you, stick with us for more. We're going deeper into the patterns, the pain, and the healing process in episodes to come. Because here at the Spill Session, we name the hurt and we help each other heal. Until next time, be kind to your heart. It's been through a lot.